Hello from Idaho. We have experienced numerous issues this summer, including malfunctioning air conditioning, getting stuck, the engine turbocharger hose, and unexpected brake repair.
So we've had more than our share this summer, it seems like, and so we thought it was time to share with you the tools that we have that we bring with us to overcome some of these field emergencies. I want to discuss with you some of the things that we do to prepare for field emergencies. And in my definition, a field emergency can be anywhere from minor to major and require either equipment or just intelligence in order to solve. This is the range of equipment that I have, that I carry with me to prepare for those emergencies. And I'll kind of just quickly go through what I have in order to explain it. But I think one of the very first and probably most important things that you need for a field emergency is your buddy needs to carry a second set of keys. Because I think the most likely emergency is that you're going to lose your keys somewhere, and you're nowhere without your keys. So having an extra set of keys is pretty important, and especially when your buddy doesn't carry pockets. For the equipment that we carry, on the canvas here in front of you, you see a very large set of equipment on would be your left side. This is all the stuff that goes in the Jeep. My rationale is that if I am towing the Jeep and I get stuck with my combined camper and Jeep, I have all my equipment with me. If I'm driving the Jeep by itself out in the middle of the wilderness, which we frequently do, and we frequently go into more remote locations, I only have what I carry in the Jeep. So I need to carry almost everything in the Jeep all the time. This is what we have for helping ourselves out of field emergencies. So the first corner section here is actually the pulling or getting the unstuck portion of it. I carry a 30-foot long, 4-inch wide, 35,000-pound tow strap. I think it's very important that if you are carrying pulling equipment, that you understand the duty rating of every single piece of equipment that you carry, so that you don't inadvertently get yourself in trouble. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. I carry an 8-foot long, 25,000-pound tree saver that allows us to hook the Jeep for winching to a tree, or a snatch block to a tree. I also carry, and this is probably the most important part, this is an 1.1 inch dynamic rope. This rope is 30 feet long and will stretch to over 40 feet when you're pulling with it, and that allows you to jerk on something to try to get it out. One of the other straps I carry a small 2,000-pound strap here that's useful in pulling rocks out of the road, pulling trees out of the road. And this is a disposable strap. It's already been broken once or twice and it's dirty and full of soil, but it's what I use for pulling and dragging things, so I can save and keep all my good equipment in good condition. When it comes to connecting your tow ropes to your vehicles, you need an assortment of connectors. I use these two 25,000-pound soft shackles. I had them for about a year. They're extremely valuable in trying to hook to all kinds of things. Occasionally you're also going to need something like a screw pin bow shackle. This is not a D-ring. It's a screw pin bow shackle, but you also need to be cognizant of the fact that these have a 25,000-pound braking strength. These are rated at 4 3/4 tons working load limit, which is usually about 1/4 of their braking strength. So these braking strength is going to be about 16 or 18,000 pounds, which is far less than any of these straps located here. So if you're jerking with something and have these bow shackles involved in it, that's going to be the most likely thing to break, and the most likely thing to go flying when it does break. I also use these two 25,000-pound soft shackles which work with this recovery ring to make a snatch block, a very effective product when used with the winch. So that's the connect and pull it out kind of kit. To get things out of the way, I carry a bow saw, an axe, and a small shovel. And the reason why I carry the small shovel is because that's the only thing that's going to fit underneath of the seat in the Jeep. Certainly a target for improvement, because having a bigger shovel is pretty essential, and only when you really get stuck and need to use it do you understand that. Some other emergencies you might have to deal with are fires. I carry fire extinguishers in the truck, in the Jeep, and in the camper, all three, so it's pretty important that you have them. Field emergencies aren't necessarily relegated to vehicle problems. It can be personnel problems too, so carrying a roll of toilet paper with you is pretty essential in being prepared for any field emergencies. I have a winch, which I'll show you in a minute, and with the winch I actually have two winch controls. This has a wired winch control and a wireless winch control, and the two of those are actually very important and helpful, because if you think about it, is the wireless winch control gives you the ability to be at the point of the action, so you don't actually have to be sitting in or near the Jeep to winch, but it's certainly reliant on electric power to operate, so if the battery should fail, you need the corded winch to make sure that you can still operate. I'm a little bit lacking in my jacking capacity. I still have this standard mechanical jack in the Jeep, but I also have this small hydraulic, and this is pretty limiting and probably a target for early upgrade. The next thing I have over here is I have when talking about the fire extinguishing, I have the water bucket. This serves two purposes. Number one is to put out a fire, and number two is for the Jeep girl to wash the Jeep when we're fording a stream. In the bucket I carry some bottles of water, but I also carry an MSR, actually this is Sweetwater, water purification kit, so if we're out, we need water, we can make sure that we have drinkable water. Jump starting your vehicle is a pretty important capacity. This cable is 30 feet long and it's 2-gauge wire. It's a very heavy duty home-built cable. You're never going to find one of these. This is what I carry with me, and I've used it. I've had this cable for 30 years and it's been very useful to me. Tires and tire work. Okay, I have an air compressor on both the truck and on the Jeep, and I have a hose with a gauge on it for inflating the tires. I also have this tire deflator, because when I'm driving on the road I put 28 psi in my Jeep tires, and when I'm driving off-road I lower the tire psi to around 12 psi to make the ride much more comfortable and the traction much better. Also tire related, I keep a very heavy duty plug kit. It allows me to repair any smaller punctures off-road. If there is an accident on road, you're going to need some kind of marking equipment, so this is a battery powered highway flare. I also keep this small machete here, which is pretty useful for any small branches. I keep a pretty good quantity of expendable materials as well. In the expendable material category, I have a packet full of different kinds of tape, different colors, different styles of tape. Inside of this thing is also my little bottle of Loctite, which is pretty essential if you're ever doing a repair, especially on a rattling old piece of equipment. Loctiting the bolts is a necessity. I keep some very heavy duty cable ties and a roll of parachute cord. I also keep a roll of stainless steel wire, which is very useful all the time. Moving on to the center of the canvas here, I have a lot of tools that I carry with me. Whenever I'm asked what tools should I bring, the answer to that is bring the tools you know how to use. It doesn't do you any good to bring sophisticated tools that you have no idea how to use them. I have 3 tool rolls, and the reason why I use a tool roll instead of a toolbox is to keep the tools from rattling. And I got too many tools in them, and so I have a little overflow of my bigger stuff where I have wrenches here. So I have 3 boxes of expendable supplies that include metric and imperial screws, electrical terminals, and all kinds of wood screws. In addition to my 3/8 drive socket set, I have a 1/4-inch drive socket set. Plus I have a lot of, vice grips are always great. I have a lot of electrical tools too. So I have crimping tools that will crimp all the way down to a 2-gauge electrical terminal all the way up to a 24-gauge electrical terminal stripping. I also carry a small digital oscilloscope, which also is a digital multimeter, and I have an entire kit of electrical supplies for soldering and some fine detail. That pretty much rounds out the stuff that lives in the Jeep. That may seem like a lot, and I have a custom box in the back of my Jeep to make sure all this stuff goes in there and stays in there. In addition to everything that I carry in the Jeep, I carry stuff on the truck as well. So I carry a big shovel, I carry an 8-ton hydraulic jack, a much larger machete. And this tool is probably the one that gets used more than any other. I carry a couple of really high quality 1.25" nylon straps and a 2-inch 2,000-pound tie down. And this is, if you've ever been in the military and you ever used one of these things, you never want to be without one. They're invaluable in some situations. I carry an additional tire repair and plug kit. With the jack goes the jack base, because a hydraulic jack is virtually useless if it sinks into the ground. Even this jack base can be considered a little bit small, and I have definitely stacked firewood underneath of this to make it functional. My tire lug wrench is actually a torque wrench, because it's pretty important with the loads that I carry that have lugs torqued to the proper specification. I keep a a separate wrench to take them loose. You can see I got a highway vest here to make sure I don't get hit. I also carry a package of highway flares. In starting a fire, I also like to put a fire out, so I carry a pretty large fire extinguisher. One of the other, just like the toilet paper, one of the other road emergencies that you can experience is having air conditioning stop working. With 2 old vehicles like I have, air conditioning leaks are inevitable, so carrying an extra can and a charging hose so that you can bring your air conditioning back to life after a leak is pretty essential. I have onboard compressors in both of my vehicles, and so I carry a bunch of extra hose and an inflator gauge in the truck, and I have a hose that's long enough to reach all 4 tires in the Jeep. And last but not least, this is a recent addition. This is an electric chainsaw, which is extremely valuable when it comes to anything larger than a small pole that's laying across the road. That handsaw that I carry in the Jeep gets pretty tiring to cut anything very large, and this little 12-inch bar electric chainsaw uses a DeWalt battery. Is fabulous. It cuts through a lot of tree on a battery charge. One of the things I also carry in addition to the spare tire that winches down from the back of the truck is I have a set of traction mats underneath of it. These traction mats are kind of a middle of the road Chinese copy, and they are broken. They were not particularly successful for me when the first time I used them, and of course I broke a huge chunk out of the side of it. They're destined to be replaced with something of a little bit higher performance. The most recent addition to the recovery crew of the Expedition Maximus is the 12,000-pound winch on the front of the Jeep. Putting this winch on also required me to buy a winch plate and a new bumper, and the bumper had to work with the tow adapter for towing the thing. So it was a little bit constrained set of requirements, but the 12,000-pound winch can pull 300 to 400 amps of power from the vehicle, and all I have room for in the engine compartment is a stock battery. So this also has a much larger alternator. I put a 250 amp alternator in place of a 117 amp stock alternator, and enlarged all the cabling to a significant extent to make sure that we had plenty of power for the winch. And I've used it a number of times to pull trees, mostly where I want to put them, and it works pretty effectively.
Well, thank you so much for hanging with us. We know this is a lot of gear, and we have found it necessary. We have an older truck. We built the camper ourselves, so any maintenance has to be done by us.
I've certainly gone through mentally each of the tools that I carry with me, and there's a few of them that I'll probably delete, but there's even more that I'm going to add. You know, I think one of the things I've already alluded to the fact that the Jeep jack is inferior. I also don't have a good recovery jack for the truck, so I'm going to work on developing something that will work for that over the future.
So as you can see, we're always looking to improve, and if you have gear that you carry that you have found very helpful for you on the road, drop us a comment below and let us know, and let everyone know what that is. Or maybe you have some other suggestions of tools, etc., things that we should be carrying with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.